All right, so we're going to talk about the flexors of the ankles and the toes. The flexors are in the posterior leg, deep to gastroc and soleus. We've got Tibialis Posterior, Flexor Digitorum Longus, and Flexor Hallucis Longus. You'll see that same pattern, right, where the digitorum is toes 2 through 5, and the hallucis refers to the big toe, right? So that's where those attach. And you can see from these pictures here that we've got these, these tendons that run deep underneath the foot to attach, right, so that they can bring the toes into flexion. These are also used, like if you walk on your tiptoes, or if you manipulate with your toes, manipulate objects with your toes. And these also are plantar flexors, like our soleus gastrocnemius and our plantaris, and they also invert the foot. So let's take a look at them in a little bit of detail. All right, so once again, our diagrams to kind of show us these muscles in relationship to each other. Here on the bottom right picture, we've got the peroneal muscles not in the picture, right? That would be superficial to these, and with the peroneals removed, we can see flexor digitorum longus is the one more anterior, and flexor hallucis longus is the one more posterior. These are deep, so where they're covered up, you're not going to, feel the specific shape there. You can see it's kind of got that pennate arrangement, the feather-like arrangement with the tendon in the middle, but it's too deep to really feel that. On this picture on the left, you can see, where you can really isolate these, where they're not covered by other muscles, is close to the ankle, right? And so we're looking at the medial side of the foot there, the big toe side. So behind the medial malleolus is where we can get little kind of peekaboo feel of the digitorum longus and hallucis longus there. And then we've got another retinacula by the ankle. Here's our synergist page, right? And remembering that your synergists are listed from strongest to weakest. So by the time we get down here to the flexor, digitorum longus, hallucis longus, these are weak, weak in the plantar flexion, particularly since we have such big, strong plantar flexors in our gastroc, soleus, and even our tibialis posterior. Here we have looking at our inversion. We've got this one on the left. Inversion, right, is the big toe side, the medial side going up is inversion. And our flexor hallucis longus is a weak sister with that. And then our flexors of our toes, this is what these are designed to do. So our flexor digitorum longus is a strong flexor of the toes, going underneath the foot, attaching to the toes to flex them. And then that's second to fifth toes, right? And then we attach separate muscle to the big toe. And that one is going to be the hallucis. All right, so looking at the details of these, tibialis posterior, we're looking at a posterior view of the leg here, and we're looking at a deep muscle here. This originates on the proximal posterior shaft of the tibia and fibula. This is way too deep to palpate, and it inserts at the 5 tarsal bones and bases of second to fourth metatarsals. And this is also really too deep to palpate specifically that insertion. This muscle is an inverter and also weakly plantar flexes the ankle. I'm going to go through these ones kind of quickly because I think we should try to not get lost in the weeds on the flexors and extensors of the lower leg and arms, but rather look at, where we can palpate them and their general actions. I don't think you're going to get, tested on the super fine details, distinguishing the origin and insertion on these. So our digitorum longus, right, this is the picture on the left where we are going to insert at the toes of the second to the fifth toes, and this is at the distal phalange, which makes sense, right? If you want to flex the whole toe, you want to attach the tendon right to the end of the toe, and then it can act on the whole toe. We are originating at the middle posterior surface of the tibia. And again, this is on the posterior side, and this is very deep. And these can flex the second to the fifth toes. That's their main action. And then minor actions of plantar flexion of the ankle and inversion of the foot. Flexor hallucis longus, right? The hallucis means big toe. So this one inserts on the big toe, and again, it goes out to the distal phalanx of the first toe. That means the ending digit of the big toe. And again, that makes sense. If you want to flex that big toe, you want to attach to the end of the big toe, and it will act on all the joints there. This one is also very deep. It originates on the middle half of the posterior fibula, and that is deep. And again, like we looked at the picture, we can feel this mostly, well, not mostly, just distally. And here we have actions of flexing the first toe. In other words, flexing the big toe. And then just to look at, again, some other diagrams here, the one on the right, again, you can see exactly what surface area these muscles originate and insert on. But then this picture on the left, I find useful, right? To again, look at, since they're so deep, right, where can we palpate these? And it's really at this distal aspect. So kind of between where the distal to the soleus muscle belly and proximal to the medial malleolus. So right in this little region is where you can get to those flexors of the ankles and toes. And I would recommend that since you have access to such a small portion of that muscle, one strategy, is to really pin and stretch, right? So that little part that you can get to, you can pin. And then if the action of this muscle is primarily to flex the toes, what action would you have the client do when you pin it?
It's hard to see.
You could just say it.
Move their
Extend.
I'm sorry, what?
Extend the toes.
Yeah, exactly, right? So since these are flexors of the toes, if you want the client, if you want to pin and stretch it, you have the client extend the toes. Any questions about the flexors and extensors of the toes?